He's having knee surgery. That's it. I mean, the Conor McGregor discussion isn't even worth talking about. He's got to have knee surgery. He's going to have to go through physical therapy. It's all going to take time. And then when the doctor says you can start hardcore training again, then we start talking about Conor McGregor again.
The fight lasted 69 seconds. The silence lasted 24 hours. And then Conor McGregor spoke. But it wasn't the Conor McGregor the world remembered. No trash talk, no bravado, no promises of destruction. Just raw, unfiltered devastation. I am beyond dark here, he wrote. I can only describe it as hell. The UFC's biggest star just watched his comeback, 5 years in the making, evaporate when his knee buckled on a jumping roundhouse kick. Max Holloway didn't beat him. His own body did. And now Dana White has dropped a UFC update so brutal, so honest, that it's left the entire MMA world wondering if we've just watched the final chapter of the McGregor era. What did Dana say that shook the sport to its core? And why is McGregor already plotting a return that doctors say is impossible? This is the story of a legend's darkest hour, and the fight that was never supposed to end this way.
And I promise I'm not trying to annoy you by asking you another Conor McGregor question, because you've already been very clear he has to have surgery and everything like that. But I don't think it's actually been documented or anybody said what the exact injury was to his knee. Do you have any insight on?
I don't know. Do you know? ACL. His knee's fucked up.
5 years, that's how long the world waited. 5 years of speculation. 5 years of rumors. 5 years of wondering if the man who once ruled the UFC would ever set foot in the octagon again. Then came July 11, 2026, UFC 329, Las Vegas, the T-Mobile Arena packed to the rafters. Conor McGregor, the sport's biggest star, its most polarizing figure, its one true crossover phenomenon, was finally back. And for 69 seconds, it felt like the old days. The swagger was there. The confidence was there. The crowd was deafening. Then McGregor launched a flying left roundhouse kick as soon as the bout began. He landed awkwardly on his right knee. He attempted to continue, throwing 2 more strikes, but his leg repeatedly gave way beneath him. Referee Mike Beltran waved off the contest at 1:09 of the first round. Max Holloway was declared the winner by TKO. The dream evaporated in the time it takes to blink. McGregor left the octagon without speaking to media. He skipped his post-fight interview. He hobbled out of the arena, refusing crutches, refusing interviews, refusing to acknowledge what had just happened to him. The speculation started immediately. Was he injured going into the fight? Had the 5-year layoff finally caught up with him? Was this the end of Conor McGregor's career? Asked if there may have been an existing injury, UFC President Dana White said there were no signs of it at the ceremonial weigh-in. 5 years off in this sport is rough, White said. We're assuming a blown ACL. That's what I assumed when I saw it, and that's what the doctors think too. The whispers were everywhere. And McGregor, for the first time in his career, went silent. The silence lasted one day. Then he broke it, and what he said was raw, honest, and devastating. My head gasket is gone. Destroyed, he wrote on social media. I had no injuries going into the fight. I was throwing kicks, planted and jumping, all throughout camp as well as backstage before the fight. This came out of nowhere. I am beyond dark here. I can only describe it as hell. The words were not the polished, defiant McGregor of old. There was no trash talk, no bravado, just a man processing the worst moment of his career. He ended with a message of defiance. The devil is literally staring at me right in front of my face here. I am not engaging. I will be at church tomorrow. I will overcome this. I will not be deterred. I will return. The diagnosis came a week later. Dana White confirmed it himself. ACL White told reporters after consulting briefly off camera with UFC CBO Hunter Campbell. His knee is fucked up. McGregor later confirmed the full extent, a torn ACL and meniscus in his right knee. The same injury he suffered in his first fight against Max Holloway in 2013, but on the opposite leg. He called it quite shocking. The 38-year-old had already undergone surgery. And in true McGregor fashion, he wasn't just looking for a comeback, he was planning it. I returned to competition within 9 months to fight Diego Brandao back then, he wrote. With today's regenerative medicine advancements and improved training methods, it is well within my realm to return by next summer. The timeline was set. Conor McGregor planned to be back in the octagon by summer 2027. But if McGregor was defiant, Dana White was brutally honest. The Conor McGregor discussion isn't even worth talking about, White said. He made it clear that there would be no rush to plan the next fight. He's got to have knee surgery. He's going to have to go through physical therapy. It's all going to take time. And then when the doctor says you can start hardcore training again, then we start talking about Conor McGregor again. White's tone was not dismissive. It was realistic. He had seen this before. McGregor's last fight in 2021 had also ended in a broken leg. 5 years out of the octagon. Surgery, rehab. A long, painful road back. And now, another surgery, another rehab, another uncertain future. White also shut down any talk of an immediate trilogy with Holloway. Who knows what Max Holloway will be doing or where he'll be by the time Conor comes back, he said. The UFC would not wait for McGregor. The sport moves on. And so does the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. I do feel that way, but it's the guys that start saying, I've been thinking about retiring. And, the minute you start talking or thinking about retiring, you absolutely positively should. I haven't heard that from him yet, but, he hasn't spoke publicly yet. We'll see what he has to say.
While Conor McGregor was posting emotional updates from his hospital bed, Dana White was doing what Dana White does best, delivering cold, unfiltered reality to anyone who would listen. The UFC CEO had seen this movie before. McGregor's last fight in 2021 ended with a broken leg, 5 years of recovery, 5 years of waiting, and now another catastrophic injury, another surgery, another endless rehab. White's response was not cruel. It was honest, and honesty in the world of combat sports is often the most brutal weapon of all. The Conor McGregor discussion isn't even worth talking about, White told reporters after UFC Fight Night in Oklahoma City. The words hit like a punch to the gut. McGregor's entire career was being dismissed in a single sentence. White clarified what the injury actually was. After consulting off-camera with UFC Chief Business Officer Hunter Campbell, White confirmed the devastating news, ACL. Then, in typical Dana fashion, he added the unvarnished truth, his knee is up. The diagnosis was official. Conor McGregor had torn his right ACL and damaged his meniscus. It was the same injury he suffered against Holloway in 2013, but on the opposite leg. McGregor himself called it quite shocking. But Dana White didn't dwell on the shock. He dwelled on the timeline. He's got to have knee surgery. He's going to have to go through physical therapy. It's all going to take time. White was clear that he wouldn't speculate on McGregor's return. And then when the doctor says you can start hardcore training again, then we start talking about Conor McGregor again. The message was unmistakable. The UFC would not wait. Not again. McGregor's return had been delayed by a broken toe in 2024. It had been delayed by 5 years of recovery from the broken leg. Now it would be delayed by ACL surgery. White had seen enough. He wasn't going to waste energy planning a fight that might never happen. The Conor McGregor thing. Conor McGregor needs knee surgery, White told MMA Fighting. Until that time, it's not even worth talking about. He also poured cold water on McGregor's immediate demand for a trilogy with Holloway. McGregor had already declared on social media that his final UFC fight has to be Holloway. But White wasn't committing. Who knows what Max Holloway will be doing or where he'll be by the time Conor comes back, White said. The door to the trilogy wasn't closed, but it was firmly locked until McGregor proved he could walk again. White's comments were the reality check that McGregor's fans didn't want to hear. McGregor was 38 years old. He had won just one fight since 2016, he had been out of the octagon for 5 years, and now he faced another year of rehabilitation. Father Time, White reminded everyone, is undefeated, even for the biggest star in UFC history. McGregor's defiant promises of a 2027 return were met with White's cold pragmatism. The UFC wasn't going to hold a title shot. They weren't going to hold a main event slot. They weren't going to hold anything except the door. And even that door would only open when the doctors said so. The contrast between the two men was stark. McGregor was fighting faith. Dana White was fighting math. The diagnosis was worse than anyone feared. Not just a torn ACL, 2 tears. Dana White confirmed the devastating news after consulting with UFC Chief Business Officer Hunter Campbell. ACL. And there's another tear. There's 2. McGregor's right knee wasn't just damaged, it was destroyed. The 38-year-old had suffered a torn ACL and meniscus damage. It was the same injury he suffered against Holloway in 2013, but on the opposite leg. McGregor called it quite shocking. The timeline for recovery was brutal. McGregor had surgery last week and said he is walking without crutches. He is hopeful of returning to the octagon in 2027. I returned to competition within 9 months to fight Diego Brandao back then, he wrote. With today's regenerative medicine advancements and improved training methods, it is well within my realm to return by next summer. He was already doing leg extension machine work, already activating his quad under resistance. All very positive, he said. But the optimism masked a darker reality. At 38, with 2 catastrophic leg injuries in 5 years, the road back was steeper than McGregor wanted to admit. The UFC's response was coldly pragmatic. Dana White made it clear that no one would wait for Conor McGregor. Not again. Conor McGregor discussion isn't even worth talking about, White said. He shut down McGregor's immediate demand for a trilogy with Holloway. Not even thinking about it, White said. Conor still has to have knee surgery and go through everything he's going to have to go through. Then came the line that summed up everything. I understand he's very unhappy with the way shit played out, but you're a human being, you're older, you haven't fought in 5 years, and Father Time is undefeated. White's message was devastatingly clear. The UFC had already moved on. They would not hold a title shot. They would not hold a main event slot. They would not hold anything except the door. And even that would only open when the doctor said so. I don't even think about that type of stuff until it becomes a reality, White said. When Conor reaches out and says, I finished all my physical therapy, I'm in a good place, they told me I can train full-time now, we'll start thinking about what's next. The contrast between the two men was stark. McGregor was fighting faith. Dana White was fighting math. McGregor still had one fight left on his UFC contract. He was determined to fulfill it. But the fight he wanted, the trilogy with Holloway, was slipping away. Holloway himself had already moved on. The Hawaiian had stated that if his next fight wasn't against McGregor, he would like a title fight against reigning lightweight champion Justin Gaethje. The division would not wait. The sport would not pause, and the man who once ruled the UFC was suddenly the one chasing the fight, not the other way around. The silence that followed White's comments was deafening. Not the silence of a fighter retreating, the silence of a legend realizing that the sport he dominated had finally left him behind. The diagnosis is official, the surgery is done, the timeline is set. Conor McGregor tore his ACL and meniscus in his right knee during that 69-second disaster at UFC 329. The same injury he suffered against Holloway in 2013, but on the opposite leg. McGregor is already walking without crutches. He's already doing leg extension machine work. He's already talking about a return by summer 2027. But beneath the optimism, beneath the defiance, beneath the carefully crafted social media posts, a darker question lingers. What happens to Conor McGregor now? Not what happens to his knee. What happens to his career, his legacy, his place in the sport he once dominated? Because the truth is that McGregor is 38 years old. He has won just one fight since 2016. He has spent the last 5 years recovering from injuries, and now he faces another year of rehabilitation. The clock is ticking. Father Time is undefeated. And even the biggest star in UFC history cannot outrun the math. Dana White has been brutally honest about McGregor's future. The Conor McGregor discussion isn't even worth talking about, White said. He wasn't being cruel. He was being realistic. McGregor needs surgery. He needs physical therapy. He needs time. And until his doctor says he can start hardcore training again, there's nothing to discuss. White also shut down McGregor's immediate demand for a trilogy with Holloway. Not even thinking about it, White said. Conor still has to have knee surgery and go through everything he's going to have to go through. I understand he's very unhappy with the way shit played out, but you're a human being, you're older, you haven't fought in 5 years, and Father Time is undefeated. The message was unmistakable. The UFC would not wait for Conor McGregor. Not again. McGregor has one fight left on his contract. He has made it clear that he intends to fulfill it. He has made it clear that he wants it to be a trilogy with Holloway. But the UFC isn't committing. Who knows what Max Holloway will be doing, or where he'll be by the time Conor comes back, White said. Holloway himself has already moved on. The Hawaiian has stated that if his next fight isn't against McGregor, he would like a title fight against reigning lightweight champion Justin Gaethje. The division will not wait. The sport will not pause. And the man who once ruled the UFC is suddenly the one chasing the fight, not the other way around. The question of whether McGregor will actually fight again is now the subject of intense debate. McGregor's defiant promises of a 2027 return are met with skepticism from many in the MMA community. He has spent 5 years on the shelf following his leg break against Dustin Poirier in 2021. He has now suffered another catastrophic leg injury. He is 38 years old. He has one fight left on his contract, and he has hinted that he would be pursuing other ventures after it. The writing may be on the wall, but McGregor is a competitor. He has never walked away from a fight, and the idea of his career ending with a 69-second injury against the same opponent who caused his first major injury is not the legacy he wants. He will likely return, not because it makes sense, because he doesn't know how to quit, because his pride won't let him, because the final chapter of his story isn't written yet. The UFC's position is clear. They will support McGregor's recovery. They will welcome him back if he returns, but they will not build their future around him. They will not hold a title shot. They will not hold a main event slot. They will not hold anything except the door. And even that door will only open when the doctors say so. When Conor reaches out and says, I finished all my physical therapy, I'm in a good place, they told me I can train full-time now, we'll start thinking about what's next, White said. That's the new reality. Conor McGregor is no longer the center of the universe. He is a fighter with one fight left, a damaged knee, and a future that is entirely uncertain. The sport has moved on. The question is whether he can move with it. Final chapter of Conor McGregor's career has not been written. The ink is still wet. The page is still turning. He will have surgery. He will rehabilitate. He will train. He will try to come back. He will try to fight one more time. He will try to end his career on his own terms. Whether he succeeds is anyone's guess. But one thing is certain. The Conor McGregor who returns, if he returns, will not be the same Conor McGregor who ruled the UFC. Time has passed. Injuries have accumulated. The competition has evolved. The mystique has faded. He will be a legend trying to recapture a moment that has already passed. And that, perhaps, is the saddest part of this entire story. Not the injury. Not the loss. The realization that even the biggest stars eventually become ordinary, that even the greatest fighters eventually become human. The cage is empty now. The lights are off. The crowd has gone home. And Conor McGregor is sitting in a hospital room, staring at a knee that betrayed him, wondering if he will ever fight again. He will tell you he will return. He will tell you he will overcome. He will tell you that his story is not over. But the truth is that nobody knows. Not Dana White. Not Max Holloway. Not McGregor himself. The only certainty is that the sport will continue. The division will move on. The fans will watch someone else. And the man who was once the biggest star in combat sports will have to find a way to live with the uncertainty. The uncertainty of whether his next fight will be his last, or whether there will even be a next fight at all. The question is not whether Conor McGregor will return. The question is whether he should. And that's a question no one can answer but him.